Hey everybody, what's happening? Neil back once again with another film review for you. And today I'm going to be taking a look at Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Yes, the seventh live action Transformers film, and they still can't beat the 1986 animated Transformers the movie. I'm not biased, that's just because that was my childhood. But no, this one's actually pretty good. It's not too shabby. It's definitely one of the better Transformers movies, but it's still the same old tired story. Spoilers! You have been warned, okay? I will be spoiling this film. Alright, moving on. This film was directed by Stephen Cable Jr., and it is a direct sequel to Bumblebee in 2018, and I kind of like that movie. That's another one of the Transformers movies that I would put in the higher tier of ranking all these movies. If you were to do that, I'm sure many YouTubers have and will, which is cool. Hey, I might even do one too. Why not? But yeah, the seventh live action film. Wow, geez, it's getting a little tired, but it's still pretty cool, and I'll tell you why. Probably because these movies are now set in different time periods. So they've gone back in time here. We're doing prequels, I guess. I'm assuming it's related to the Michael Bay films, and that continuity is canon and all that, unless we're rebooting. I'm having trouble confirming this. It seems like it's supposed to be in canon with those. But anyway, whether it is or not, I don't care. I really don't. It's pretty good, just like 2018's Bumblebee, though. So yeah, so they're getting better at it, and this one being set in 1994, pretty cool idea. It stars Anthony Ramos, Dominique Fishback, Peter Cullen, Peter Dinklage, Pete Davidson. That's a whole lot of Pete's. I think that might be the Guinness World Record for the most Pete's in a film. But that's cool. Hey, it's got a great cast. We got Michelle Yeoh, we got Ron Perlman, we got David Soboleff plays three different characters here. That's really cool. Good for him. We are introduced to the Maximals at the start of this film. The Maximals are based on Beast Wars, which was an animated series from the late 90s, and in Canada it was called Beasties, which is really stupid because Beasties doesn't sound anywhere near as cool as Beast Wars, and there's nothing wrong with saying Beast Wars when we were already saying Star Wars, so it was dumb. But anyway, Beast Wars is how I shall refer to it, and that was a pretty good show, certainly for its time. Great voiceovers there, great voice work by the actors, and great sound effects and so on. But anyway, I digress. Back to this film. It is, it's all about the Maximals, really, and the film starts that way as we get a bunch of Maximals here with their old leader, Ape Link. Here, he is going to sacrifice himself basically to save the others, and he appoints Optimus Primal as the new leader of the Maximals. And they need to escape their planet because Scourge, who is a servant of Unicron, yes, Unicron from Transformers the movie, a proper Unicron this time as well, unlike the last night or whatever it was. But Peter Dinklage plays Scourge, and he plays him really well here. And he's very menacing, very threatening. He kills the old leader as the surviving Maximals escape. And they would later wind up on Earth. And we're skipping ahead to 1994 in New York City. And this guy, Noah, is, he's convinced to steal a car for money with his buddy there, or this guy he knows, Reek. And he really needs the money for his brother's medical bills, though, because his mom says, early on, like, just tell them that we'll pay it, just because they're behind on their payments and whatnot, and the kid has a really very strange kind of a condition. I don't recall what it was, but it was something with his arm, his hand that was not functioning. So it was pretty kind of unfortunate situation for him there, and he feels compelled, like, okay, I got to steal this car, I got to get this money, I got to do this job, I got no choice, because he's already been turned down from another job. So unfortunately for him, the car, which is a Porsche 911 that he tries to steal, turns out to be Mirage, which is this cocky young Autobot who was originally an F1 race car in the 80s. I thought that was strange because I'm a G1 fan, and I went, hey, it's Jazz, because Jazz was actually the 911 Porsche or Porsche 911 Turbo or whatever they called it, back then. The 80s machine, really like a great race car, really cool looking, race car. But no, it's they're doing Mirage because they've already done Jazz in 2007. So how could they do Jazz again? Well, I guess we'll do Mirage. So why not? And he can generate Mirages, of course. He can generate duplicates of himself to trick opponents and whatnot. He can also transform while driving straight forward or driving backwards. He can transform and then drive forwards while there's a person in there. He's really talented. He can transform into a bunch of different things. It's crazy. So yeah, other than being able to generate images of himself, he can actually transform into other cars, or at least he can seem to transform into other cars. It's really just got the one car mode, the Porsche 911, but he can seem like he's turning into another one, and he turns into this Formula One race car just for a second. And when he turns into the Formula One race car, I thought that was just super cool because there's a little bit of G1 fan service because Mirage was a G1, a Formula One, that is, car back then in G1. So yeah, that was really cool. Also great to see RC. So speaking of characters that, young Transformers fans in the 80s like myself would remember, certainly RC, the pink Autobot, introduced in the 86 film. She was voiced by Liz Koshy here, who is amazing. She did a fantastic job. I love the sound of her voice, and I really like the way that they put the electric on it. They vocoded it, as they say. Frank Welker calls it the electric, put the electric on it. So I'll call it that, since he's a Transformers god, of course, just like Peter Cullen. She did a great job as that character, RC. Bumblebee is, of course, in it, and, he's a cool character, but he's getting a little annoying with all the quotes. It's like everything he says is a movie quote. It's kind of like, okay, after the first 5, that's enough. But we've seen that before, obviously in other movies, and that's okay. And I do recommend Bumblebee in 2018, with Haley Steinfeld and John Cena. It was a good movie, I thought, set in the 80s, but it's not mandatory watching to understand Rise of the Beasts. So I want to make sure you get that clear. Elena Wallace is another character here, and she discovers this thing. She's this intern, and she discovers this transwarp key that will open a way back to Cybertron for the Autobots. So it's like a space bridge, that's what we called it back in the day, the space bridge back in in the 80s. The 3 Terracons are alerted by the space bridge thing. Well, the key, okay, it's a transwarp key, half of it anyway. It gets activated, and the Terracons notice that, as does Prime, and he alerts the other Autobots. But the bad guys are coming. We got 3 Terracons coming down. Scourge, of course, was a completely different character, but he was a character created by Unicron, who was originally Thundercracker, the Seeker jet. Oh boy, okay, we're not getting into that. Let's don't want to get into Skywarp and Cyclonus and all that stuff. No. We're going to stick to this movie. So when they arrive on Earth, they do a lot of damage. They kill Bumblebee, who's trying to defend Optimus, and he gets killed. He goes down, and then they steal half of the key. Then they meet Airazor, who's this eagle type of Maximal, who's voiced by Michelle Yeoh. And they also later on meet the other 3 surviving Maximals, led by Optimus Primal, voiced by Ron Perlman. They meet all these Beast Wars characters, these Maximals, in Peru, and it's pretty cool. I mean, Airazor is pretty awesome. This eagle that's also a robot, an eagle robot. It's like, yeah, that is pretty cool, in live action. Don't think we've seen that yet, but pretty cool stuff. Unfortunately for the character, Airazor is corrupted by Scourge and dies later on, and Mirage, by the end of the film, is also nearly destroyed by Scourge because he's protecting Noah, and Scourge is shooting at his back, and he's just like taking the hits, and it looks like this is the end for Mirage. However, he does something new as well. Something else we've never seen in a Transformers anything, I don't think, is that Mirage, as he seems to be dying, transforms his body into an exosuit for Noah. See, that like this whole time, Noah's been like working up the courage to be this, heroic human character, and he finally gets there. And when he gets this exosuit, it's pretty cool. The exosuit actually reminds me of G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra when they have two exosuits or accelerator suits, I think they called it. And they said, well, what does it accelerate? And he's like, you. And I don't know. It was kind of silly, kind of goofy, but that exosuit, is that related to this exosuit? I don't know. We'll see. But the good news here for Noah is not only does he wind up distracting Scourge, and then Prime comes in to wreck him, but Bumblebee comes back to life as well after some kind of power surge that reactivates him, and some, I don't know, some mumbo jumbo hocus pocus nonsense MacGuffin situation. I was like, sure, okay. I mean, it's Transformers. You say there's a power that can bring him back to life. Why not? We got talking robots from outer space, so almost anything goes. It's okay to have fantasy set in reality, as long as what happens to humans is still realistic, I think. Maybe that's the rule. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, cool to see Bumblebee come back. He's a real badass character. He rips apart the bad guys. There's this flying female Terracon bad guy that he rips apart, and that's so awesome. And then they kill the second Terracon, and then they kill Scourge, and Optimus Prime is almost pulled into the vortex, which is happening because it's imploding right now because Scourge had destroyed the controls, so it's out of control, that usual kind of thing, And Noah and Optimus Primal wind up saving Optimus Prime because we think for a second, oh, maybe Prime will die again. Well, no, I'm glad they didn't kill Prime again. It's like there's only so many times they just should kill Optimus Prime. I'm kind of tired of it. But by the end of the film, both people are really celebrated. Both humans, are celebrated here. And what winds up happening is that Noah goes in for a job interview, which turns out to be a recruiting agency for G.I. Joe. That's right. And they actually use the symbol, the same logo that they used in the live action movies. So again, I wonder if they're crossing over with those kind of movies in that kind of universe. Well, there's 3 live action G.I. Joe movies now. But just referring to the Rise of Cobra, with the exosuits and all that stuff and the symbols and everything, you gotta wonder. But there will be a crossover, and that is in the works, and fans have demanded it, and I really hope it's good. We've seen it in comic book form. I'd love to see it in animated form. But we've barely seen that, but definitely live action. I'd be down for that. So, mid-credit scene. Once the credits roll, and then we get a mid-credit scene. Mirage is rebuilt, and he comes back to life thanks to Noah getting parts for the Porsche 911. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. And, I liked it. There were a couple of cool homages to the 86 movie, like the exosuit, and certainly the line, "No matter the cost." That's a great line. I do a bad Peter Cullen, I know, but it's a great line, that is, harkening back to the 86 movie. And of course, RC being in there and everything. I mean, it was just really cool to see references to the 86 movie, as well as some fan service for Beast Wars fans. That's a whole different generation of, I'd say mid to late 90s, Transformers fans there. Since that show was very successful, and then it became Beast Machines, and then it just kind of fell apart. But Beast Wars at the time was, there was nothing better than that. Waking up to that in the morning was pretty cool. So, yeah, let's sum it up here, basically. I'd say it was good, but not great. I mean, there is a scene that will happen at, at some point to the characters, and then the audience would think, oh, this is just like that, and then the character would say just what the audience would be thinking. So, there's that kind of like, leading kind of writing, that kind of predictable writing, I'd say, in terms of the big battle at the end, too. It's the same, too. It's like, there's always this big battle at the end. Of course, there has to be, of course, Okay, it's not that much different from other live-action Transformers movies, but, it is in the upper tier, I would say. There's a reference to Indiana Jones as well, so there's all sorts of things in there. It's great. And, I mean, there are certain moments like that are really, really great. The humor is pretty good. I'd certainly like to see more of the Maximals, Cheetor and Rhinox and those kind of characters. And, Optimus Prime, just kind of a bloodthirsty guy, out to kill his enemy. But then again, like his whole world, his whole Cybertron is at risk, not to mention the Earth as well. So, but he's a bit naive as well. I don't know if he's quite as wise as the Optimus Prime that we see later on in the Michael Bay movies, but certainly he's still cool. He's just very, very, out for vengeance, and since it's a robot, I mean, I guess it's cool, but it's cool with parents and all that, but he's just really like, I'm gonna kill you, and it's just like, oh my god, but anyway, that's not Optimus Prime so much for me, but that's me. Unicron was good. I was happy with that, getting that right this time. I'd say, David's Mirage could have gotten annoying, but he turned out to be okay. He turned out to be a good choice for the role. In the end, he's rebellious and immature, like Hot Rod was in Transformers the movie. So it's kind of weird, but at the same time, it's a mix that kind of makes sense to me, anyway. And Bumblebee, quotes through the radio or through the movies and things like that. It's still kind of like, yeah. So it was a predictable movie, and it was kind of like, okay, it was cool though. It wasn't as bad as some of the crappier Transformers movies by any means. I don't think there'll be any Razzie nominations for this one. There shouldn't be, because it was a good time. It wasn't bad at all. So I'm going to give Transformers: The Rise of the Beasts, a loud visual effects extravaganza, a 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, so great visuals, great direction, interesting characters. The human characters aren't that interesting, because we've seen these kind of characters before, but still cool, and I like the way it was done. So that's all for me, guys. This is Neil, signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in to this film review, and until next time, till all are one.